And good morning, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Backers, joined with a special guest this morning, Coach Donnie Jones. Donnie, thank you so much for joining me and your willingness to share your expertise. I wonder if you would just give us a little bit of background about your history and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah, Tim, well, thank you. Good morning. It's great to be with you. And, I've been very blessed, Tim. I've had an opportunity to be around some incredible coaches. I played college basketball at a high school. I'm from West Virginia originally. I grew up in a small town called Point Pleasant, went on to college scholarship, played at a NAIA school in Pikeville, Kentucky called Pikeville College, which is University of Pikeville now. After college, I was fortunate to stay on as an assistant for a year, and then I had the opportunity to go on and get a master's as a graduate assistant at Marshall University. Stayed on there, that staff after 2 years with the previous coach, a guy named Dwight Freeman, and then there was a coaching change. They hired a guy we all know by the name of Billy Donovan, who came into Marshall and kept me. I was there and was fortunate with my experience that I was able to connect with him and coach 2 years at Marshall. We turned around that program. We went to the University of Florida. Started there in '96. Went on 2000, played for a national championship. 2006 and 7 went back-to-back national championships. I went back to Marshall University where I started as a head coach. 7 straight seasons there. They'd had a losing season. We turned that around. I was there 3, won 24 games in my 3rd year, and then University of Central Florida, UCF, came calling, so I came back to the state, and I was head coach there for 6 years. After my 6th year there, I was out for a year, and I was with the LA Clippers as a professional scout for a year. Wanted to get back into college, and landed over with a friend of mine, Greg Marshall, at Wichita State for a season. And then the following year went over to Dayton with Anthony Grant, who was one of my best friends I coached with at University of Florida with. And then the opportunity came here at Stetson this past season where I become the head coach.
You've done a lot of moving all over the country, and talk a little bit about some of the challenges associated with being a coach, in that, your job is never secure, sometimes even if you're successful. How do you kind of manage that understanding that, my jobs are temporary? They may be a year, they may be 6 years, they may be 10 years, but at some point I'm probably going to be moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty simple philosophy, and it's growing as it went on. Obviously, we grow as we coach and experiences we go through, Tim. And I think most importantly is, we control what we can control. I think mindset day to day is how I approach it. Your mission's got to be bigger than where you're at. Is really what you're there to do. I've always seen myself as a builder, of somebody who's come in to bring energy and to impact the people in the culture that I arrived to. So my mission's always been much bigger than actually the school I'm at. It's been to help build a winner, but obviously transformation and transform people. And I think in growing kids and helping them reach their dreams and helping kids graduate, obviously winning has an incredible value that helps you keep your job, and it creates, a platform for you to be able to impact even more. And I think keeping the mission first and foremost is the most vital thing, regardless of what the outcome is. Some of those jobs, obviously, I left to what I felt was a better move for me professionally and for my family at the time. And then obviously I was let go at UCF. And so with that, we had to make moves that we felt fit us as we continued our mission into impacting people and not only growing them as men, but also helping them, reach their dreams.
A lot of people talk about the win-loss columns. Coaches are often judged by that. Are you successful? How many did you win? Yet we talked just before this stream started about the differences between a transformational coach and a transactional coach. Can you highlight for people who may not know those differences, what that is, and kind of why you are a transformational coach?
Yeah, well, I think, I am a transformational coach. I always have been. I think you got to coach to your personality. The old school way growing up a lot was transactional. Some people still coach that way. So I can't condemn that. I think what works for you is you got to coach to your personality. But my personality has always valued people and players first, and I think when you're a transformational coach, you do that. And because nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care, and that's a good spirit. That's how I've always coached, and a lot of people can communicate, but very few connect. And I think it's vital as a coach and being able to change human spirit and performance. There comes a trust level, especially with kids, even more today than ever, because there's such a void in trust, and you have to gain that. And it's really hard to do that from a transactional standpoint, I think sometimes, Tim, because we do that many times when you're a transactional coach by fear, and that usually wears off, and then there's a void in a relationship.
I I have a question for you that came in online from Margot Scott. And she said that, how did all of the moving around affect your family? It's similar to the military moving every few years.
Sure, that's a great question. I could talk a long time on that, and I'm a very family first guy. That's most important to me, and I'm not one of those coaches that I would ever leave and take a job without my family. And so, the biggest commitment had to come at the house first. And even though it was hard, I had a daughter at the first move. It was going into her 10th grade year, so it was hard on her. We moved all the way to Middle America, from Orlando, Florida, to Wichita, Kansas. And that was a really big move for her. And so, I really had to invest at home. My relationship with my kids is vital. So there was a lot of communicating and a lot of sharing. So we went through it together. Obviously, there was always challenges. And every time we made a move, it was one that we always sit down and discussed as a family. And even though it was hard for the children, that's the people that struggle the most. That's adults. We walk into a place and we have instant friends. We have instant connections when we take a job. But our kids are left to walk into new schools, new environments, to fit in at very vital times in their life, depending on where they are as children, to grow. So it was an incredible growth opportunity for our kids. No matter how much you talk about it, they got to experience it. Now looking back at it, the blessing now is my daughter, who made those moves. There's 3 moves with me, as a freshman here at Stetson. And so I get to see her every day. And through her growth, she's made a lot of friends, a lot of connections. It's helped her grow as a person. But it's vital for you when you go through those moves. As a coach, we go lock into our world because we have a new job and new pressure, that we sometimes forget about our families. That can't happen. Your family, it's got to stay there. You got to invest in them every day if it's for 1 hour, and make sure you're listening and very aware of the change they're going through. So I think that's vital, but it's always hard. And they look back on it, no matter what you tell them during the time, and they realize the growth if you handled it right in the moment.
One of the reasons why I was really interested in talking to you is because of the transformation in your team that has happened at Stetson. You came in, the team had been struggling before you came in, and you started turning that around. And so I was curious as to how do you do that? How do you change a culture of maybe apathy, losing, lack of motivation, into a group of people who are really driving forward with the same purpose? I'm really looking for what kind of strategies do you use that coaches who are watching or other sports professionals could adopt?
Tim, that's a great question. And I've did a lot of talks on that here lately. And this is a great one to talk about again. I think the first time, this is the third time I've walked into a program, and usually you take over a program for a couple reasons. One, they've either been incredibly successful and the coach got a new job, that he moved on to something bigger and better that he felt was right for him, or you've taken over a job that the administration or fan base thought maybe it wasn't at the level that their expectations wanted it to be. So we came into one here that's unfortunately has had 19 straight losing seasons,
Wow.
and not had a culture of winning. And so with that, we had to come in, and the things that I put together. I think there's 10 steps. I'll read them all real quick because I think they're all really good, and I won't get too detailed in every one of them. But the first one, you just got to evaluate. When you walk into a new place and you're there, you got to evaluate the people. You got to evaluate the administration. You got to evaluate the players. You got to evaluate the whole situation and try to look up under the hood and figure out why is this not working? The best you can right off. And then from there, obviously your staff, people you put around you, number two, is so vital. You have a great staff around you, people that fit the circumstances. Maybe not the most qualified coach, but the right person who fits the needs of that situation. Then the third thing you got to do is build trust in your administration, in your academic people, in your boosters. I mean, every day you're selling your vision and you're building trust. You got to re-recruit the players that decided to stay or you kept in the program. Fourth thing is you got to create standards. What's the roadmap of how we're trying to get there? What's it look like? And we put together that, and I'll talk about that here. The pyramid of success, called our 4 pillars. And then you got to have accountability. You got to make sure you hold them accountable. Obviously, each and every day, you are what you say you're going to be. And if you let things go by, then that becomes another standard. Then you got to develop competence. That means you got to teach them. You got to show them what winning looks like. You got to talk about expecting to win. You got to create the vision and tell stories and give them the tools to equip them to help them become the best they can. The next thing is just promote teamwork. That's through community stuff. That's through why being a team matters. And you got to celebrate it. You got to challenge them, number 8, every day, how they compete each and every day in practice, off the floor, hold them to a higher standard of expectation than they could ever hold themselves. Number 9, you got to be the example, your staff, who you are, where you've been. I've been blessed for 30 years of coaching, Tim, that we've had a lot of success in a lot of ways. So you got to be the example of what you talk is what you do. And then the last thing is recognition. I think that's one we really fell out as coaches. We expect and we criticize, but we forget to recognize. And I think that's really celebrate and recognize. And, I always say, shout praise and whisper criticism. We got to find ways to recognize and catch them doing something right instead of always calling them out. And I think you got to pick that recognition to celebrate them on social media, celebrate them in front of their peers, celebrate them, individually, whatever it may be. But that's kind of been my 10 steps, what I say, to build it. I've experienced in 3 situations, and just being a part of those championship teams that we went into Florida with, Tim, and had a lot of success. That's really reflected on our blueprint of having success.
Yeah, I really like that celebrate success, because too often coaches maybe identify the weaknesses, punish the offenses, but don't really highlight the people who are trying to do the right thing and putting in the work as an example. So something that maybe a lot of coaches miss out on is that area. When you look at recruiting now in terms of you're back in college at the college level, do you recruit specific players that fit within your philosophy or work ethic, or are you looking for the best talent on the table? How do you go about trying to find a quality athlete for your program?
Yeah, well, I think more importantly, I think obviously talent is important. So talent does have value, but you hear the word fit a lot, you hear culture a lot. So what does that mean? I think obviously we're looking for what the need may be. Could it be a guard or could it be a big guy? But more importantly, we're looking for people. Which we got one thing I really learned, Tim, was I was a scout. For a year for the Clippers. I went all around the country and seen the best players in the world. And the biggest thing that we really did, it wasn't hard to evaluate talent. I could take my wife to a basketball game. She can figure out who the best players are. It's really hard to identify is that, intel and the character and all the DNA of an individual is so vital. And, we won a couple national championships. When I was at Florida, we were voted the team of the decade in college basketball. And so very similar to Florida State, it was, looked up on early on. And you look at the success Florida State's had in basketball right now. Coach Hamilton and his staff are phenomenal people as well as coaches, and they've had incredible success. And so we really focused on making sure we got great people that we felt fit the DNA of our program, who coming in, what could we change, all right, and where were they at? So we called it the DNA. What was the DNA? So we were looking for servant people. We were looking for overachievers. We were looking for people had incredible character. People in the classroom obviously mattered to them as well academically. And we felt that some kids that we felt coming through the door just could really buy into being a part of something bigger than themselves. So we really try to do a great job, not only recruiting kids for their talent to come here and play, but we really try to evaluate who we get. You know?
How do you actually figure out their character? Is it talking to family members, coaches, friends, watching their social media?
Yes.
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah. So it's important to us. And I think with that, there's a lot. I learned a long time ago, leadership's important. Great. And I learned this with the Clippers. Great leaders ask great questions. And so questions are important. And that's talking to coaches. That's talking to the other coaches in the community that they play in. That's talking to AAU coaches they play against. Most of their coaches are going to say good things about them. So we really got to get to know their family, get to know their circle of trust, we call it. And we talked about there's four things for us. We call it the 4 Ps is really what we call it. First thing is the person. Who are you? All right. We really try to focus on who are you as an individual? What's your character? What's your story? What do you do? The second things we talk about the other piece, process. Can you learn? How you process information. Can you learn? The other thing's pace. We want to play fast. We want to play up tempo. Can you play fast? Or are you a slow half-court player? And the last thing is P is production. Obviously, it comes down to can you produce in your role? Are you good enough? Those are the things we used to use with the Clippers, call them the 4 Ps. Can they fit those four characteristics of your program? And that's really what it boils down to for us in the program.
I have another question in the chat box I want to get to that was kind of tying in. Do you actually do any kind of profile assessments on potential athletes?
Yeah, great question. I'm not really I love analytics, and I try to use the analytics I feel that really fit our needs of our program. I think a profile assessment, can tell you some things. It gives you kind of a list to follow through to make sure you're checking off the boxes and all the little details that have value. But I think, I go through a lot with gut. I think just my experience and talking to people and the spirit of people, you can never communicate enough. I'm a communicator. I'm a talker. I'm somebody that's got to feel like I connect with you, or I'm not sure I can coach you. So I go by a lot of the humanistic factors more so than the analytical check off the box, because kids can tell you what you want to hear sometimes. And I got to go with the people around. And I really think sometimes just taking a kid without having somebody in his circle that you can connect with who believes in you as well, because you're going to need somebody that he trusts to really change behavior. If you think you're just going to take a kid by yourself who doesn't trust you and change it, it's very difficult. Somebody's got to believe in you in that circle of trust that he's already got. And I think that's important for us in the growing school.
Now, you talked about the longevity of your career, and you've had some significant highs winning national championships, but you've also had some real lows. And I'm curious if you can talk about how you kind of progress out of those lows and get back up, because it's easy to kind of be in a situation where your team loses something you should win, or you have problems with an athlete on your team, you maybe lose your job. How do you kind of recover from those situations and stay focused on kind of some of the more positive aspects of coaching?
Yeah, that's an incredible question. And it's so important in life and in business and sports.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, sports, it's the beauty of sport is it teaches us how to be resilient, to handle victories and also handle losses, because we deal with that all the time at a very high level that's recognized by fans and people all over the world watching sports in a competition. So it's important from a mindset. That's one of the most important. That's one of the top 3 things I teach in my coaching philosophy is we talk mindset all the time. Being with Billy Donovan there, that was one of the key factors of his success. Was he had an incredible ability mentally to teach how to handle pressure, how to handle the stage, how to be in the moment, how to handle the defeat, how to bounce back with that bounce back spirit, and just continuing each day to be able to, how are you growing yourself mentally, just physically. And I think for us, me having the highs, obviously at Florida, winning national championships, and we had a lot of highs at Stetson this year with things that we've done. But I think most importantly is you got to be able to have a circle and a mentor and people that you can reach out to when you're having those low moments, that you're not alone, and make sure that you got a circle of not toxic people around you, because your energy level is something you got to coach and you got to gauge every day in coaching. But it's also when it's not going well. Who do you pick up the phone and call? Do you have those relationships to talk through and say, hey, you've been through this, help guide me how I should be looking at this or dealing with this. What's next for me? Can you help? You can't do it alone. I didn't get here by myself. The success I've had has been a lot of people loving me along the way. And I think that's so important that you keep that circle around you during tough times.
Mentorship is something that has been a consistent theme through all of the interviews that I've been doing, in this idea that you can't do it alone and you need people to rely on to help you. A lot of people come to you for your expertise and your leadership experiences, and we come to you for our professional development. I'm curious where you go for your continued improvement and your professional development. How do you stay motivated to get better and better every day?
Absolutely. Well, I start the day off every day, Tim, in a routine. And it's usually about 2 hours. I usually start about 6 to 8 is my time to connect, to grow. That's through the things I'm reading. I was a part of the John Maxwell team when I was out there. I'm a big John Maxwell leadership guy. I've read probably 25, 30 of his books. I was a part of that movement there. I was coaching CEOs. I was part of leadership off the court here during the year. I'm always listening to podcasts. I got about 10 podcasts I listen to on a continual basis. I got journals that I keep every day that I feel like here is just full of just notes. These are my notes constantly, where I'm writing stuff to grow from. And then I have a circle of about 5 to 7 guys for the most part that I call. Billy Donovan, one of them. There's a guy, Brendan Sir, who happens to be on my staff, who's one of my best friends. That's been a legendary coach. I have a 3-star general named Mark Hartman, who's a great friend that I call on. I have a minister friend for faith-based that I call on. So there's a circle of influence of people who really feed my growth as a person that I go to. But I'm on a lot of these leadership podcasts like this too, where I'm listening and learning. A growth mindset is important for us to continue to find ways, different techniques for us to become better. It helps us in coaching because we're dealing with the human spirit. And that's vital in coaching, teaching people how to become a team.
Well, I took notes earlier, but there was a question on your P's: person, process, production. I think the fourth one is pace, correct?
Yeah, the 4 P's is person, process, pace, and production. Those are the 4 P's. So those are 4 things that we look at in recruiting that fit our system and our philosophy.
One of the things that I've been trying to do as part of these interviews is show that we can have positions across sports beyond just your typical coach, which is what you're doing right now. And one of the unique experiences was being a scout for the Clippers. And I don't know if I'll ever get somebody on who's been an NBA scout. So if you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit about what the roles and responsibilities of that position are, because who knows, maybe somebody watching this wants to become a scout down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was an incredible experience. Coaching for 30 years, and evaluating and recruiting and going through our process in college, really helped me. But more importantly, have a chance to go and see what the best of the best in the world look at and how to evaluate. So I think, we evaluated in person, we evaluated in film. So the difference here is we wasn't recruiting somebody to really come and play for a professional organization, because there's a draft and free agency and different things are involved. But I think the biggest thing that I really learned was the power of intel and intel information, and being able to ask the right questions and being able to go and find that circle involved with a young man and understand the connections with those and information about him and We looked at social media. We looked at all the trends in his life from the time he was young to high school to what we call spokes on the wheel. How many people were involved and the connections? Because, a lot of times people pay somebody a lot of money and you're going to invest in a young man to come and play for your organization. You want
Right.
to look from a character standpoint and that how will this young man handle getting $10 million? How's that going to affect his performance? And as we all know, it's really hard to handle successes as much as adversity. But the ability for me to go around, evaluate, see the best players without having to coach them, all I had to do was focus on evaluating them and where would they fit. And so there was a mentality, just like we do as coaches in my program, is what we want, just like the Clippers. They had a model of what played for them, what kind of young man they wanted in their program, what fit the head coach, and what were those characteristics with the team they already had and who they were trying to bring through the door at the moment to fit in that locker room. So it was vital when they were talking about chemistry, talent, character. And so I probably had a scouting book that was 100 pages long.
Wow.
Those questions and a lot of plan and how we were going to accomplish the person that fit their culture.
Last question I have, unless others watching want to post one real quick, is what advice do you have for those who are looking to either become coaches or maybe improve or move up in their coaching career?
Yeah, well, I got a couple things here I think is really important. I think number one, incredible humility and patience. Obviously, a lot of young coaches get in, they want to go right straight to being an assistant coach. I got through the door being a graduate assistant for 2 years, and that showed my work in coming in. And then I was a third assistant at the time, and then I worked my way up to be a full-time assistant. But I think you got to be intentional. You got to plan out. You got to have clarity of what you want to do and what your plan's going to be. You got to try to connect with people, be some coaches that you know or some other coaches that you respect that you want to learn from. How you reach out and communicate and network with them is vital. I think you got to have an incredible work ethic in how you do that. There's going to be a lot of people telling you no because the hardest thing to do is get started. And how do you get started? And it may take some time, but continue to stay in touch with the way you can communicate through social media now and text. And calling's hard. It's a lot of times hard for guys who you're trying to break in and be mentors with. It's hard to pick up calls sometimes, but there's so much communication can happen with that. I think you got to find a mentor. You got to find one or two guys you really respect and you want to learn from and invest in them. Find ways to celebrate their wins and their successes and just build trust. Everybody likes to be liked. Everybody, somebody respects them. So find your way doing that. And I think you got to figure out what value you can bring to somebody just to get you started. Maybe you come in as a video guy. You want to be a coach, but you got to be a video guy because that's what the program is. And a lot of guys come in, they want to coach. I'm a coach. I'm a workout guy. I'm not doing video. I'm not going to be the ops guy and do all the secretary work. You got to find a way if you want to get in this business to just serve. Just be a server.
We did get one more question in. It's an interesting one. Margaret says, "What's your view on paying athletes a stipend during their time on campus?"
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fairness to that.
There's a lot of chatter about this right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen all different types of obviously student athlete needs over my 30 years that come in. I know it's the amount of work they put in, the time they put in, the amount of money they generate for the university. There's so many things involved there. I think the biggest thing is just putting a stipend across the board that's fair for everybody, that's equal to everybody. But there needs to be more money available for high-field kids coming through just for day-to-day living expenses. It's very hard. They don't have time to go out and work part-time jobs to do things because the amount of time that's required for them from us as coaches. So, but a lot of these kids come in without a whole lot. I know the value of an education is incredible, and a lot of regular students come in, have to pay for school, and so they see that. But I think what these student athletes are able to do and create, I think, from a financial standpoint, from the university there's got to be some type of stipend there. It's not necessarily what we say paying like professional, but there can also be a stipend that provides the day-to-day needs for each student.
Well, I know that you're very visible on social media, and if you're interested in asking Coach Jones some more questions, that's his Twitter handle. I'm sure he'd be happy to take questions there, also on LinkedIn as well. But Coach, thank you so much for taking the time and your willingness to share your expertise. I know I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody else watching does as well.
Oh, Tim, well, the pleasure's mine. And I look forward to staying in touch with you too. Thank you for what you're doing for coaching and leadership. This is valuable to so many young people. And you know, feel free to reach out on my Twitter there if anybody would love to ask questions. I'd be happy to share.
Thank you. And also a reminder, coming up tomorrow, we have a professional ice hockey player, Rocco Grimaldi, will be joining us to talk about his experiences as a professional athlete. And then, of course, coming up through this week, a lot of basketball, actually. Jay Hernandez from the Charlotte Hornets joins us on Wednesday. Cheryl Kirk from USA Racquetball joins us to talk about her role as a national team leader for the sport. And then we round out the week with Sergio Scariolo from the Raptors, and he's also the Spanish national team head coach. So we'll talk a little bit about how he juggles all those roles as well. But once again, thank you for Coach Jones joining me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.